Now we are. We are live with Angela Wright, and we wanted to get her back on the show because you got some big news today. You just released a brand new single, right? Changing Plates.
Yeah.
And so
Release day energy is definitely getting to me, but it's exciting.
Well, it's cool that like a lot of artists I've talked to during COVID, people have been very creative and have continued to work. And, you know, last time we talked, you were working on stuff, you're still working on things, and now you got this big new song. And it's, you know, I'll just give people a brief intro from what I've read about it. You know, it's a personal lyric about your journey, your transition from leaving home. It's got this kind of motivational movie soundscape feel. Yeah. And I feel like I've talked to you before about your influences, and I feel the Adele influence big time on this one.
Oh, good. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's what you were going for, because you definitely have it. And it's got this very cinematic kind of nostalgia indie pop feel. And it's big and bad and wonderful vibe. Like it seems like it's, you know, like orchestral, really flourishing. I like it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, I've always really loved orchestras. So just bringing in timpani drums is one of my favorite drum pieces you could possibly have. And it was just so exciting to watch the drummers, like while we were creating the song, do the taiko drums and just really create the song. It was such a emotional, sentimental story for me of just my journey of moving from home, where like with my family, and deciding to move away to a city I had never even been to, which is Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah. And that's like the music mecca now. I mean, it's a big mecca, like LA, like New York, like London, like Berlin. It's got its own vibe. We'll probably get into that a little bit. But the thing about it is, like, changing plates, is that a term that came from an author, or is that something you came up with from your own experience? How did you, where did that come from?
That's a great question. It's something that I created. It's something actually kind of my dad gave me influence for. Is I was I was trying to register my car here in Tennessee, and I had to change my driver's my license plate.
Oh. Okay.
And it was a real big thing for me. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm officially a Tennessean. Like, what does this mean? So I decided to write a song about it and say, I'm changing plates, as in license plates, and changing places. I'm in Nashville now.
Yeah, because when I first heard it, I was wondering, like, I was talking to a bunch of foodies, and so in my brain was like, oh, I'm changing my position at a dinner table and going to another dinner table, because it's kind of like, it depends on how you think about it. So that's the first that came to my head, because I was actually thinking like, oh, well, maybe it's not as obvious. So I was like trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it's definitely like confusing at first, I feel like, but once you really listen to the lyrics and also like video, I will be putting out a video soon.
Okay, then that would be,
it'll have an additional element of like that driving, that motion that goes along with the journey of the song, of kind of moving away and moving from one state to another and kind of doing a road trip kind of feeling.
Yeah, it's got that road trip feel. It's got that Lana Del Rey feel too. You know, it's got that vibe. So,
oh yeah, that makes me happy. She's one of my, I call her my goddess. So.
Yeah, it's probably like how Lou Reed and the Velvets are to me.
Okay.
Yeah, and being a keyboardist, you know, like if I get to Rick Wakeman, you know, he's like you know, oh, I gotta bow down to Rick Wakeman. He become a synthesizer player. So every time I see somebody like a Rick Wakeman playing a board, or Keith Emerson, you know, that's who I kind of try to, Bernie Warren, Funkadelic. But like, yeah, we all have our inspirations, and it kind of comes into our music. And I really heard, but last time we talked about a lot of people. You're like Etta James, you know, there's a lot of artists that you talked about being motivated by, and I hear it even more. But but it's your own take on it. It's not like you're trying to be them.
Yeah.
You feel them, and you put it into your music.
Yeah, I think pulling inspiration is something that every artist and musician takes as a tool to help them further themselves in their career. but also being original and being yourself and telling the stories that are your own. And that was something with this song, is this story truly was from start to finish my own. I did co-write it with somebody else, but we did it for me, and I kind of had an emotional time when I was changing my license plates and declaring myself a Tennessee resident, and was like, yeah, this is my story, and I want to tell it. And as soon as I wrote the song, as soon as I heard it, I was just like, damn, I feel it. Like it hurts my heart, and I want to talk to I want to call my family, and I want to tell them, like, I still call you all the time, and I think about you, but I'm somewhere new, and I'm doing what I love.
Well, that's what I like about singer-songwriters. I think, Tapestry, I think, turned like the anniversary this year. And when you think about the 70s, great women songwriters. And the thing about it was like singer-songwriters, like, the Carole Kings of the world, when they wrote these songs, it's like that, it's that feel that, okay, that's a personal experience. And when you take a personal experience and then you relay it in an artistic way, that always feels like very honest. And I think people want that, especially during COVID. Everybody likes like a banger, like a club banger, but you can't go to the club. Right. So a lot of people are writing more personal, more kind of epic songs, last, 9 months that I've been talking to bands. Yeah. It feels like 2021 is going to be really impressive because people had all this pent up capability. And a lot of times, if you have to tour as a musician, you don't get to put into your art everything that maybe you wanted to. But now we actually have the time to.
Absolutely. Even just thinking about like the difference of some of my, like the things that I write or I want to write versus some of like my performance repertoire is different because people want to dance and they want to bop out when they're drunk at a bar. But at the end of the day, like, if they're listeners like me, they kind of want to turn on some music and cry themselves to sleep, like
go listen to the Carpenters, that will always get me in that. Like every time I get like, and I'm a child of the 70s, so every time I get like thinking about 74, I'll go put on like Close to You, and it'll get me like teary-eyed.
Honestly, that song is so beautiful. If someone does tear up to it, then
well, it's just the whole backstory that Karen had this ability that she's singing this beauty, but you always felt this melancholy in her voice. Yeah. Even if she was singing like a happy song, it still felt like she just embodied this melancholy that she was able to relay in such a deep way that it's like, it's hard. Sometimes I can't listen to the Carpenters, and then I'll go back and listen to them because it's like, it's very emotional. And it's kind of like I like bringing it up. Bring what you were doing with this song. It's like you're building this up to be an emotional event compared to people who want to bop, and that's not. It's a different vibe. But you're trying to convey that, and that I think that's the cool thing about like how powerful music is.
Oh, absolutely. I've always viewed music as my outlet. That I am a very bubbly, happy person. But at the end of the day, like, I need to let my feelings out and I need to kind of express my sadder, darker side. And my music is the perfect place for that. And it always has been ever since I was a kid.
Yeah, maybe we go back for the people who hadn't heard our other interviews and we step back a little bit to go back and say, like, you had first got into music at like what age were you into your training or got into it? Just so I know what it was, but tell the audience again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I wrote my first song actually when I was in kindergarten about a boy I had a crush on. I was playing with my Barbies in my playroom, and my mom heard me, and she's like, "Is my child singing jazz music? I've never played jazz music." And then went down and actually recorded me without me knowing. And I think we somewhere in our family memories have a recording of me singing like, "I love you, Nikki, baby," at age 5. So I think it was definitely always in me. Even just watching family home videos, it's just me singing or dancing all the time.
Yeah.
But I started vocal lessons when I was like 8 years old, and I was classically trained and did musical theater for most of my life. And then when I was about 15, 16, once all the boyfriends started coming into the picture, I started to write my own songs and really start to express myself. And then when I was like 17 and 18, I really decided like that is what I want to do. And I went off to Berklee College of Music to pursue songwriting and vocal performance, to be an artist and be myself and try and express my message and hope that other people felt the same way that I did.
So at Berkeley, were you focused on like vocal type of training or like musical theory?
There's definitely a lot of both. Basic curriculum is very music theory, harmony, ear training, all those classes. But my specialty was vocal performance and songwriting. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, Berkeley always kind of was something I wanted to strive for because I was very much into their electronic music department and in the whole like idea of modular synthesis. And I kind of never got to do that. I went a different path, you know, in terms of my professional career. I'm an IT guy, but I just went and kind of learned all that modular stuff over the last 20 years just by buying modes and buying like Jupiters and buying these analog synths. And once you own them, then you can do whatever you want with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I admire that because I'm just now teaching myself how to do my own production, but just on like Logic and on my computer, and it is a struggle. So I admire you for all the work that you put into learning the analog synths and to learn all of that.
Well, I think it's cool. What I've learned a lot this year is a lot of artists, because they couldn't physically get to a studio or they couldn't find a way to get to a studio where they could work in a COVID way, right? So a lot of people started boning up on Logic and, you know, figuring out how to become a recording engineer, which is its own art form. I mean, you can just live in that zone and never be a musician.
Absolutely.
And you can be a producer, you know, recording engineer, sound person, and it's its own thing. But a lot of artists, have had to try to put their hat on during COVID to be able to get their demos done. And so have you had to do more of that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just learning how to just record, like, even if I'm not the one producing the song, learning how to record my vocals well enough that I can send them off to the producer so they can use it. I'm also a really big proponent of doing co-writes with people. So a lot of them during COVID was doing Zoom sessions.
Yeah, that's
a
good one.
Honestly, like, it doesn't feel quite the same as being in person, but it actually feels pretty good just to be able to sit down and write with someone and spend some time and have that designated time to be like, okay, I'm going to write a song with somebody and I'm going to do the work and feel it.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think I talked about this before, but I did this kind of thing like 3 years ago with this LA, she is an actress. Her name, Alt Control K is her stage name, but she's an actress. She does a lot of film work, like she did like overdubs and cartoons and different bit parts and sometimes lead parts. But she wanted to be a musician, which is typical of an actor, right? Every time you meet an actor, they see Johnny Depp, he wants to be a rock star, he wants to be Keith Richards.
Yeah.
A lot of times actors want to be musicians and then they don't, they have a hard problem. But we ended up doing in 2017 this type of thing. We were working on a record for like 6 months and we never met each other physically. And we did it kind of like pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And then I kind of, since then, I had been doing it that way before the crisis. And
it's
it actually kind of works for me.
Yeah. It's kind of nice to be able to work with people from the comfort of your own living room and not have to spend the time driving and doing the thing and carrying all your gear. So I definitely get that.
But being in a place like Nashville, I can understand. It's like it must be frustrating to be in a place where that is kind of like New Orleans. You could be like in doing all kinds of sessions, and now are you limited in doing that, or is that opening up a little bit more?
Nashville's always been a little bit looser with their rules here. I don't know if it's good or bad. But I mean, it just depends on if you're being safe. And I was really trying to schedule co-writes with people, whether it was virtual or in person.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, like with the process of the song that I released today, Changing Plates, was a friend of mine. Well, actually, I hadn't even met him in person before. He went to Berkeley same time I did. We hadn't met each other. He came down to Nashville, and we decided to just write a song together the next day after we met, because it was like, sure, we bond. Why not? Let's do it.
Yeah, same school. Yeah.
And I think that's a really big part of the process, is you just have to push yourself out of your comfort zone and open up to people, whether that's your audience or the people you're writing with.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's really wonderful, the way you can connect with people, you know, and weird under COVID, I've actually linked up with so many artists. You know, I did a collab with a spoken word poet from Canada, and it was all poetry. And I just did background music, and she did her poetry. We kind of put this EP together.
Pretty.
And it's like, you know, I my first love is poetry. I mean, I started doing what I did as a poet, and then I started to merge into like Josephine and all this other stuff I done. But this, I started just doing like my own voice before I created Josephine, and then I've always kind of geared my music to have like collabs with other women, you know, with doing the leads, like with the actress in Los Angeles, and now with Kaede Lynn in Canada. And it's all, you know, I've been very productive to work in this environment. And it's just interesting that people are able to put stuff together. And the depth of this song, so it's it's a co-write. So how involved were you in the orchestration and everything? Did you work with your producer to kind of work it out, or you knew what you wanted?
Me and my producer spent 2 days at the end of October. At his home studio, and we recorded all of it within those 2 days. It was doing the piano on the grand piano that we originally wrote the song on.
Yeah.
And then doing background vocals, guitars, live drums. I was very a part of the process. I think the only part I really wasn't a part of was the mixing and mastering, because I don't know much about that. But honestly, I was really excited about this song because it was so sentimental and so important to me.
Yeah, just having you have like a grand piano sound. Like I think I try to put that in a lot of my stuff. When I'm not doing industrial kind of EDM, I find that pianos are kind of like guitars. And when you want to do something emotional, you either use like an acoustic guitar, or you use like a piano or like a Yamaha piano or something, just to give you that kind of sparse nature to let the lyrics be able to be heard. Absolutely. And then the orchestra, you know, with those strings on, just kind of the building, kind of like that classical building nature of that. You know, something like Phil Spector, where they used to build these big walls of sound. Yeah, and it might start off kind of simple, and then it builds up. And they just kind of, you know, it's just a technique of different types of genres that you can impose into pop music. Bring from other places, you know.
I think I love listening to classical music. I love listening to musical theater, jazz, all sorts of genres. And I've definitely been the type of person who listens to a lot of acoustic and piano ballads, especially like the Carpenters, or the music of the 60s and the 70s have always really inspired me. Mm-hmm. So I definitely do love the sound of instruments, because I think no one can quite replace that feeling of a live instrumentalist playing.
Yeah, it's hard to do that on the grid. Like, it's hard, if you want that kind of chord, like a Richard Carpenter chord arrangement, you know, it's like he would work with big songwriters, you know, but he would take their initial cut, and he had his own style, or like reinventing the voicing. Absolutely. And he was very good at like taking, like, you know, what was given to him and totally revoicing it. And I think that is something that kind of gets lost when you're on the grid. You know, if you're too much into Ableton, or you're too much into Pro Tools, with a lot of the songs today that don't have that kind of 70s feel.
Yeah, I feel like it's just the authenticity. I love the fact that we can program drums, and we can do the things that maybe you don't need to hire every instrumentalist, because that can add up.
Oh yeah.
People like young artists like me, who are trying to do it themselves, completely independent, no managers, no nothing, you know. But at the end of the day, I do love watching and hearing instrumentalists play, I think it's a very special feeling, and that's why people love going to watch live concerts.
Well, that's kind of like why you're in Nashville too, right? Because you have access to a lot of those type of musicians.
Yeah, different players, different songwriters. I feel like everywhere you go, you meet people who do something in the industry of any sort, and you can kind of just say, hey, do you want to do a co-write? I've never heard it before, but let's bond about our heart and our soul and put it into a song.
That's the one thing about being on a scene like that. Like if you're like in Austin, or if you're where you are, you're even in Boston compared to like in New Hampshire, right? In New Hampshire, it's all like folk music, which I like Neil Young, I like Conor Oberst, I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I like Dylan, but like I'm an electronic musician, so if I'm going to jam with somebody, I usually got to go to Boston or New York to find people who are in the same vein. You know, it's hard to find, you know, but once in a while I do find a guy in New Hampshire that actually has a Moog, and I'm like, wow, we got a Moog.
And I mean, that's kind of a thing with Nashville too, is, you know, it's a very country scene. It is hee-haw town. All the tourists come to hear the country bands on Broadway. But most of the young artists that I have met and the people recording music are doing all sorts of different types of music, whether it's EDM, rock and roll.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it seems like it's a bigger scene. Like I've been hearing that from you, I think, originally. And, you know, I knew when Jack White went there with Third Man, and, you know, the whole scene. And then there's a big, you know, electronic scene. There's the modular scene. You know, the kind of stuff you would think you would see in Berlin or in London. They got bands doing stuff like that. And you got the lo-fi kind of, you know, like, you know, grunge, like punk type of bands doing things too. And it's just a cool scene.
Yeah.
To have that kind of diversity, which, you know, it's not just Johnny Cash and not just Waylon Jennings, not the Grand Ole Opry over and over. Not that that's bad. I mean, I like listening to Johnny Cash anytime. That's my favorite country music, is that type of music. But, you know, Americana, I very much like, you know, like a John Mellencamp, Americana, like the band. I can listen to that all day. And, you know, and I think it's like, as a musician, I think it's good to open yourself up to anything. I've actually worked with DJs, and a lot of times, you know, traditional musicians, we kind of look at EDM and DJs, and we're like, but are you just pushing a button, or are you doing something?
Yeah, but it's so nice to push yourself out of your comfort zone. Like, that's something I've really been working on, especially in quarantine. Is, oh, this person does a type of music I'm not really used to doing. I'm going to try it. If they like it, then they'll use it. If they don't, then that's that. But at least I did it, and I pushed myself to try something new, because I think that's so important as a musician. Is we have a career where we don't have to do the same thing every day. Yeah. So push yourself to do something new rather than the same thing.
Well, I found it like I kind of probably had my own preconceived notions about DJs, but then I was working with this one DJ, and the one thing I liked about what he could do is, as a producer, he like could hear the hook, because I guess it's all about hooks. Like, so in that form, it's like it's about the hooks so much that he could recognize when something was working or wasn't working.
Yeah.
Right? And he could fit things in really good production sense, a really good sense of that clip, you know, style of recording, but make it work. And when you're working with somebody like that, where like I tend to do a lot of stuff that's like organic, or I let my Moog just suddenly do something weird, and then I pick up on it and I go with it, and it's kind of haphazard. And then watching somebody that's a little bit more refined and dedicated, that can actually help you with your production. So I like that's sometimes it's like, okay, well, yeah, there's something good about that. I can take some of that and leave out what I don't like.
I mean, that's like the beauty of working with other people and doing co-writes and doing things like that, is you really learn about different people's processes and what they do to make themselves better, or what they don't do that isn't, maybe you're not a fan of. And you can use that and push yourself further to work on that for your next co-write, or work on that when you're on your own. Of like, oh, that person suggested I focus on the hook first. Maybe that's great advice. I'm going to try it. And maybe if it doesn't work for you, then it doesn't work for you. But I think there is a beauty of taking other people's knowledge and trying to apply it to yourself and testing it.
Yeah, it's like drummer. You know, like I'm talking to this one guy, with one producer. He spends like 2 months getting the drums done, right? He just spends so much time trying to get the perfect kick, the perfect tom, and he spends like he just really, really so focused. I'm like, really, you're gonna spend all that time on that? But then, like when you hear the result, was the beat was so tight, it actually is what made the song because he spends so much time trying to get the rhythm right that everything else kind of falls into place. And then he was less tight about what he did on his guitar and
Yeah.
what he did on everything else because he had his beat down so tight
Yeah.
that the other stuff just kind of came in. He didn't obsess about it. He
Yeah.
kind of let that be more natural, but he spent so much time constructing the beat. And I was like, well, that was informative because like it kind of showed you like what the focus is. And it kind of reminded me of like the Motown drummers. Like
Absolutely.
if you think about like back in that time, they did spend a lot of time getting those rhythms done, and it actually makes those songs. If you listen to those 3 minute Motown songs, it's all about like the Purdy Shuffle. It's all about all these great Motown drummers that just had these techniques.
Yeah, and they had to hold their time because it was up to them.
Yeah, there's no
to carry
machine,
those
so they
songs.
had to be like that power in the precision in that short amount of time be as precise as what our 808s and 909s and stuff are today.
Yeah.
They were kind of creating that vibe with that, and that's kind of cool. But so you were talking about you got a video coming for this song, right?
Yeah. Well, we're still in the creation process, but I have a lyric video that's coming out that I edited myself. It's all footage of my move from where I'm from, Salt Lake City, Utah,
Mm-hmm.
driving across the whole country and making it to Nashville. And
Oh, what happened? You dropped a little bit. Oh, you're back.
sorry. Yeah, it's just about my move, driving across the country and landing in Nashville and feeling like you belong. And that's kind of what the video is it's a super sentimental story for me of just going from this one place to another. And it'll have the lyrics so anyone can sing along and learn with me. And hopefully other artists will cover it and put their flair on it also.
Yeah, I think it's really cool to put together your own art for your project. I think that's the one cool thing about being an indie artist is that you can kind of control the art direction and the promotion, and that's a lot of responsibility.
It's a lot.
but then you have that vision the way you want it to be. You know, it's like you're responsible. So.
Oh, I love it. I mean, like, it takes a lot of time and a lot of work and way more than I honestly want to be doing because at my heart, I'm like, I just want to write a song, but I'm spending time sending my music out to bloggers or curating my Instagram profile or putting together videos to make a lyric video and a creation process and just putting things out there for people to get to know me better and get to know my music better. But it takes a lot of work as an indie artist. And is it worth it? I think so. I would do it forever, as long as I get to do what I'm passionate about. So
in 2021, is this like this song part of a strategy to do a lot of singles or work toward an EP or?
I think this song will stay a single, but I am working with some producers here in Nashville. We've got 4 songs. So I think I might do an EP of that, but if not, it'll be singles. But either way, it'll be those songs that I'll be trying to release as consistently as possible.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been working on a bunch of things besides the podcast. What I found is like a lot of things, you know, I think in this COVID age is like working as producer on other people's work, you know, being playing a bass on somebody's record or doing a pad on somebody's record. Have you been doing like I guess features or showing up on other people's work to kind of keep busy?
That is a goal of mine. So anyone who's listening, message me. I want to be featured. I want to co-write on your projects. But at the moment, I haven't had too many feature opportunities, but I am trying. I'm pitching different ideas to different artists around here in Nashville. I try and collaborate, whether it's covers or co-writing with people as often as I can. But as far as featured vocals, it definitely is something I'm trying to work on. So any listeners out there, please contact me. I would love to feature myself on your tracks, add vocals, lyrics, whatever you need.
Well, hopefully some of the other bands I've talked to, maybe they'll pick up on that.
Honestly, I hope so.
This is going to actually go as an audio only version back onto Anchor, because we have a way to convert it. And then this will also be on my Facebook channel, and it'll be on my YouTube channel. And so we're going to push it out, but we have a way to still put it onto Anchor. So it's going to go out to like Spotify and Apple and all that. So.
Well, I'm so looking forward to hearing it and sharing it with my family and friends and fans. So I'm excited about this.
Yeah, I mean, this song is it's really killer. I like it. I think it's I was listening to it just, as soon as it came out, and I got access to it. And yeah, I think I shared it with my Instagram followers. I put a little link on already for it.
Oh, thank you so much. That genuinely means so much. Like, as an indie artist, I'm doing all the work, sending it off to people. So thank you for doing that without me having to ask.
No, I think it's something new I've been doing. Every time I interview somebody, I put saying, well, the day I interview somebody, I'll actually put their song onto my Instagram.
Yeah.
So that people can get a picture of like who that artist is before I actually talk to them.
Yeah.
And so, now I have this other form. We're doing this StreamYard thing. It's something I was working on since last year. And I actually interviewed like a Swedish band earlier today. There was like an alternative band from like 2006, and they came back together because of COVID.
Oh, cool.
And then and they have this kind of new wave sound, and they kind of got this kind of like David Bowie kind of stage presence, like a Ziggy. Their lead singer had kind of like this androgynous Ziggy kind of look. And it was just cool to just see if this would work again. So then I said, oh, wow, I should probably do this more. Because I can always convert it into the audio only. And then it gives, I think people are so visual that we're going to start doing.
Era, you gotta have videos.
We're going to do this more. Is this the question is sometimes like it depends on somebody's capabilities. Like if somebody's phone or thing doesn't work right, then we don't get the quality that we can get on the other form when it's only audio. But you do what you can. But I really think that this year with your song and every song I've been listening, to artists during this whole lockdown, that it just seems like there's really deep music coming out of people.
I think that's amazing. I think solitude can push artists to do more. And at first it was really off-putting for me. It was like, oh no, I'm all alone. I can't do co-writes. I just got to do it on my own. But it kind of pushed me to be like, okay, well, what am I feeling right now? Maybe I'm not feeling anything, And I feel like a lot of artists are ready, and because they're not performing right now and doing concerts, they're ready to write their heart and soul and put it out there for people to listen to. And hopefully the listeners will be open to it.
Yeah, I think people, I heard during the lockdown that more people were willing to try artists that they never heard before. There was this article saying that people were listening to, more indie artists. People were willing to listen to new music because I guess they have time. And that's always a good sign.
Oh, I love that. I hope they do. I mean, if not, then I'm doing this for nothing. But I hope that people do start to expand their horizons and notice smaller artists that are kicking their ass just to get to where they want to be.
Yeah.
You don't have to support the people that the radio's putting out and playing 500 times a day.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, the problem with sometimes American radio, I love Tom Petty and I love Led Zeppelin, but you've been playing the same list since like 74. Or 78, maybe 78, 79. It's like the same playlist.
Yeah, I mean, so I have a mentor. He's Graham Russell of Air Supply, and he actually told me, he was like, yeah, like they will still play all of our old music, but as soon as I released new music, even though I'm super established, they wouldn't play it on the radio because it wasn't already famous.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of reluctance to try something new is so extreme. And then even like I was looking at, I'm in some groups, right, where I get pitches.
Yeah.
And the pitches are like, will sound like this Drake song or sound like this. They're very, very specific pitches that people are wanting you to clone something that already existed. It's like, why would you want that?
Yeah, like why am I making new music? If you want a cover from me, I'll make a cover.
Yeah, but why wouldn't you just go to Drake and get it?
Yeah. Oh, I'm a big proponent of that. Like I'm like, I'd rather listen to the original artist.
Yeah. Why would I do that? Because I'd rather do something that like I'm inspired. I can feel your Adele influence, but you're not cloning an exact Adele song. You're taking what you feel and you're putting your own emotion into it. And now it's become Angela Wright, and that's you. It's and
I appreciate that. I mean, that means a lot to me. I strive to be as original and as me as I can be. But at the end of the day, I grew up singing Adele songs and I was a big fan, and I grew up singing Taylor Swift and different artists that it was like, they're going to be in me no matter what.
Like, I mean, if you're a blues guy, you're going to always pull some Robert Johnson. You're always going to, you're always going to pull Lead Belly. Lead Belly's always going to be there. You're always going to be pulling, John Lee Hooker. I mean, that's what the blues is. So if you do the blues, Hendrix was doing that when he first started, and then he kind of put his cosmic stuff into it. But he was starting with the bass of it. And you're always going to pull from those classic musicians.
Yeah.
But then it becomes your own when you take that. The whole thing that Hendrix did is he put this cosmic feedback. He came with these different voicings of the chords, and he just did this total strangeness that no one's even been able to reproduce, maybe except Stevie Ray Vaughan. But it's just interesting how people can take their heroes. Hendrix loved, John Lee Hooker and Lead Belly and all those great guys in the same time period. And it just becomes like flattery, to me. Like you go and do that work, but it's like it's not. You try to teach younger musicians when they're coming up. It's like it's not bad to say that I was inspired by Robert Plant, or I was inspired by
They're great artists. Why not respect them and give them the love that they deserve? Because if they influenced you, and at the end of the day, you're doing something different, but the musicians before you are the ones that paved the path to make your path possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Bach and Beethoven when you learn the classics, right? You learn any of the great classical stuff, you have to learn it. And it's the same thing with, within your genre. If you're a soft rock person, you're going to know Karen Carpenter. You're going to know all the classic work of the 70s. You're going to know that by heart, and it's just going to come out unconsciously.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're riffing, like you do a jazz set, like if I'm a jazz, sometimes I might unconsciously pull out a Tangerine Dreamline, or I'll pull out something from Sun Ra or Coltrane. And I didn't mean to do it. Yeah. It just was in my head, and it just came out. And it's not like I planned it. It's like the feel.
Especially when your ear recognizes a chord progression, it's almost impossible not to somewhat do a little rip off of somebody else to be like, that's like I'm not copying them, I'm not cheating them, but they did something very similar to this, and you can only do so much with how many chords and how many notes.
Within different art types of music, with different types of rock music or funk music, there's a certain that's the nature of that music. Like if you're doing James Brown funk, you're gonna be doing the kind of the Sex Machine type of structure. That's what it is. And anybody's in that funk zone, it's gonna be Funkadelic, Sly, or James, right? Or maybe you'll go and do a little bit of some other artists spin on it, Earth, Wind, Fire, or something. But you're gonna be in the same zone. And so you're going to hit some of the same notes in some ways and some of the same patterns in some ways. And that's just kind of disco. If you do disco, you're going to hit that pattern.
Absolutely. I mean, there's really only so many notes in the scale. Like at the end of the day, don't copy people intentionally, but if you hit the same note, it's not a problem.
Yeah, you don't want the copyright strike just because you accidentally hit it.
Yeah.
But I tend to get the copyright strikes on my own stuff. I'll try to do a Facebook Live, and then suddenly I get a strike, and they say you copied a Peg song. Was it? Well, that's me.
Oh, thanks.
Then they mute. Yeah, I did a live performance, and they muted like half of it, and then I went back like that was already published. Yeah, but I published it.
Yeah, it was me. Oh my gosh, I've actually had something similar to that happen where it's like I've given somebody permission to use my song in one of their videos or something, and then they get blocked. And I'm like, shoot, I thought like I had already gone through all the copyright rules and trying to figure this out. But
their bots have gotten so crazy where they'll ruin your live performance. Your live, you might be able to get away with it. People watched you at that moment, but as soon as you do the replay, then the Facebook algorithm like just mutes half the show, and you're like,
why?
Why'd you do that?
Yeah, just to mention.
Can't you ask me? Like, I can prove it's mine. But yeah, that's kind of frustrating for some folks. I guess some of us are going on Twitch, not to push them, but because they don't do that yet.
And that's a whole nother beast that I think people might not notice with the whole process of making music is it's not just songwriting, it's not just producing, it is all of it. It is the marketing, it is the publicity, it is the copywriting, it is the sync licensing. It is so much more than I think I even ever knew before I got into this.
Oh yeah, I mean, I actually do. It's so interesting. Like the way the music industry is, I don't understand it. But as a podcaster, my royalty rate is higher as a podcaster than as a musician. And then I'm like, why is that? And it's like, why? It's like, how can you do that? And I was like, oh, fine, I'll take advantage of it, but still, it's like, it's not cool. I don't think it's cool because I'm in both worlds, and I think it's like minimizing the artistry of a musician.
Well, especially because musicians put so much into their songs for very little reward. Like even like for this release, it's like, okay, $500 for the recording. Okay, another $100 for the video. Okay, another $100 just to market it. Like,
yeah,
it's a lot of things to be like, oh, I hope this makes me back $20.
Yeah, and it's just like so. I started getting into influence marketing and sync licensing real heavy. And it's like the thing is like every musician, we'd rather spend more hours in the studio.
Oh, for
more
sure.
hours doing stuff. But then we were kind of forced to, because the way the business is, that, I can make more money selling a t-shirt. So I'm going to have to spend a bunch of time working on a t-shirt, working on a poster, working on a button, when really I want to work on my music, but I got to work on that to be able to do the music.
Absolutely. I mean, that's been a big struggle for me. And then having a job on the side and just trying to do things. It's like, how do you balance it? How do you find enough hours in the day? But at the end of the day, I know that this is what I want to do. So it's like, got to figure it out. Got to push myself, maybe stay up an extra hour at night and just send things off to people. Or, oh, this is a song idea I had. I guess now that I'm done with work and stuff, I can write it.
But I hope that the one thing I try to get everybody into is like, if you love an artist, right, and you go to their Spotify and they've got that COVID-19 support button, or they've got that Patreon button, or they've got their website button where they're selling merch, or if you go to Spotify or you go to Apple, like, well, when you go to Apple, buy the record. When you go to Amazon, if you love that artist, buy the album, and
I was really working on with this release was trying to get people to pre-save the song before it came out.
Yeah.
That can increase your potential in the Spotify algorithm and get you exposed to people.
Yeah, get you on the playlist.
If you don't have pre-saves before, then it doesn't really go anywhere. And that's something I was trying to explain to my friends, like not in music, was, please pre-save it. I know it's not out yet. It doesn't make much sense to most people, but it actually really changes our game.
Yeah, it's just hard to get people to push some of the buttons,
Yeah.
It's like you do a reel, You'll get like 5,000 views on a reel.
Yeah.
And then they don't hit the like. It's like, so if you're gonna watch it, can you hit the like?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I know. Even like I did like a Facebook advertisement for this song, and it was like it reached like 2,000 people, and I think only like 12 people clicked on the link.
Yeah.
12 out of 2,000. But you know, at the end of the day, hopefully those 2,000 liked it, listened to it, and maybe they'll recognize me the next time.
Yeah, it's the conversion. It's like you got to get the conversion. I think they need to do things like if somebody looks at something and it's longer than 10 seconds, automatically hit the like. Automatically program that they if they listen to it more than 10 seconds, then they liked it. So you hit it as a like.
Yeah.
Please listen to what we're saying.
Someone out there, Spotify team.
Yeah, because if somebody's actually listening, that should count and trigger something.
Yeah.
Right. And so that should trigger, like, and I know it triggers some stuff, but like you want the likes to come in, you want that stuff to come in, you want people to show that, the interest. And it's just the algorithm's got to be a little bit more in tune with art support.
Yeah, especially with small artists. Yeah, it's just like, I think at the moment it's very tailored for the big artists or the big songwriters. And eventually small artists are going to have to kick the door down and be like, let us in. Even like, for example, like Canvases on Spotify. They didn't let people do that originally. It was just
now it's only for big artists, and now suddenly we can.
Now it's for everybody, and I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, I've been starting to go back and hit all my stuff and create video work, which I had a lot of videos, so it's just a matter of getting it in the right format. And but it's just interesting, that I've heard a lot of the big companies kind of control the playlist world. They're kind of controlling what's on those playlists, and we've got to get, an indie consortium of indie artists to kind of pull together and make our own thing. It's almost like if we kind of pull our own collectives,
absolutely,
then I think we could have more pull with these playlist, algorithms. And we can come in and say this is a collective like 100 indie artists, and we go and we have our own festivals. We do our own thing, and then we pull each other along, kind of like the old hippie Dead Head movement. And then you had all these bands around the Dead. They'd all play with the Dead, open up for the Dead, close with the Dead, and then they kind of pulled each other around,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always use the hashtag artists support artists on most of my posts that I do on Instagram and stuff like that, because it's like, I hope that another musician or another artist is going to see this and be like, yeah, you're right. I will support you if you support me. That's how it should be, is it's all good karma. Like, for example, I released a song today. I knew 2 girls in Nashville that also released a song today. So I made sure to post their song in hopes that they might do the same.
Yeah, I think we all got to kind of pull each other. We all get ways to get, on the festivals, and we say, hey, this guy could be cool on a festival. A guy I was just talking to in this, electronic kind of crazy world of Euroracks. There's like this New York consortium of a bunch of like geeks like me who like to play with Moogs, and now we're gonna do all these live streams, and we're just gonna, everybody can jump in. They could do 10 minutes or it can be 2 hours, and you can just go from your studio and do all kind of noodling on your Moog. And everybody's like, you support each other in different types of consortiums and different, groups of these artists. And I think that, if you look at what happened with Tyler and Cam Flogna, that's kind of what happened. They were able to pull this whole scene together and was able to kind of go against the other big festivals. We haven't seen that because of COVID again, but yeah, I mean, I think that's a cool thing to do.
We do live in the generation where we can post on social media, or we can do these FaceTimes and Zooms and podcasts and things like that, where hopefully we can come together. And even though we're not together in person, we can still feel together. Because at the end of the day, our music is what brings us all together. If we emotionally feel the same thing, we're all humans at the end of the day.
Yeah,
and I want to thank you for for doing this podcast and hosting all these artists and you being an artist yourself?
Well, I found that like doing this connects me with other artists, and I like not being able to physically go because of my job or something. I found a way to I can connect with all these people like I'm in the scene, and because I am, it's just a virtual scene. But it just I think you got to give back. I love music, and I think artists should be able to present themselves without some person out there telling them they got to spend $200 to get on a podcast. I think it's like back in the day, you used to have like NPR radio stations on college radio guys, and they would let bands come on for free, and you didn't have to pay the payola. And that's kind of like what I've been, a big proponent of is I think, things when I grew up listening to the little college radio stations and, you listen to like an early REM interview, they would go on to a college radio and they'd be talking for like an hour. And you're like, wow, I got to really hear about that band. And I said, well, I need to do that in the same way. And that's why I'm kind of doing what I'm doing.
Well, thank you for that. And I mean, I think you're giving a lot of artists opportunities, such as myself, to get themselves heard and get their name recognized on Google just by being mentioned in somebody else's post or being featured on something. So again, any of the listeners who want to collaborate, who want to feature, come at me, because that's how we're going to work. We got to work together in order to make it anywhere.
Yeah, I'm down with that. I'm always looking to expand and do different things in my zone of expansive sound. So yeah, that's something. Yeah, I've been working with a bunch of different people from different veins. I'm trying to get back into some jazz again. I'm trying to link with some jazz guys. I found I just recently trying to figure out how we do it in COVID. Yeah, we're hoping that once everybody's vaccinated, maybe we can put together like a Taj Mahal type of thing. But we're kind of I kind of want to get back playing live big time. And I know everybody probably wants to do that. Yeah, it's a show that you don't just have to have a CDJ. You can get out there and kind of shred on your board or on the bass or on the guitar or the horns. I like that kind of live experience of real. Not that well, people get mad at me when I say real music, but more like instrumental.
Yeah.
Music.
Well, I'm excited to hear what you're working on, and I'm excited for the listeners to hear us talk about this discussion, because I think it's really important that overall our arcing theme is work together, share each other's stuff, and be with one another, because we're all artists at the end of the day.
Well, everybody,
if you're just a listener, you're making an impact on these artists' careers and lives.
Yeah, definitely. Make sure you create a playlist with the songs you like from your artist, and then to your friends, and that kind of expands, the world for that artist. If you keep on passing it forward and saying, hey, tell friends when you because I've been affiliated forever, so I always have a group of friends that are kind of vinyl crazy hi-fi people, right? They just want to listen to anything. So I'm always telling them about something new. So a lot of times when I talk to people I talk to on my podcast, I'll tell my best friend from the 70s, I grew up in the same neighborhood, but hey, you need to listen to Angela, or you need to go check this out. You need to go pick up this. And we're always having big, long Rolling Stone discussions.
That's so great. I mean, that's what we want. We want listeners and artists to be able to have open discussions and share the music and feel proud of what they're listening to and what they're doing. So. Yeah,
I think people are so into video games today. I think some folks have forgotten the joy of music. And I am heartened, I think I've talked to you when we close out now, about vinyl. I love vinyl because vinyl makes you listen to an artist.
Yeah,
right?
The whole album. Yep.
Yeah, because compared to a playlist, you might be one of 20 or 40 people on a playlist, and you might hear 2 minutes and 30 seconds of an artist. But vinyl will make you listen to that artist's whole project. And then you get into their vibe because of the artwork, because of the lyrics, and then you get more connected because you physically touch the product which is actually like touching the work of art.
Oh, I am a big proponent of that. I'm definitely an old soul. Anytime I write on paper, like, because it gets my feelings out and it actually feels real. Where if I type it up, it kind of just feels like, oh, I'm texting someone.
Yeah.
And having that vinyl in front of you and being able to sit through and listen through a whole thing. Like, my favorite albums are mainly like Pink Floyd and Queen and Chicago, because all of it's super cohesive, and I love that. And eventually one day when I am a big enough artist and I have enough of a fan base that is willing to listen to a whole album, I want to do something like that. But that's a growing process, and I'll get there one day.
Yeah, you'll get there. It'll be. I think it will be. It's very useful when you show up at a show, and you've got, like, 100 vinyls with you, and then you set up a table, and in the weird thing that I go to New York, and if I sell like 100 vinyls, I'll do better than I did on my Spotify all year.
Yeah, like, here's my vinyl. Here's also, here you go, if you want to follow me on social.
Yeah, because you're able to connect with it. You put a little card in, you put a little postcard, you put my little poster. You can charge $25, $30 for vinyl compared to what you get on the Spotify. So once you work it out, you can do these micro batches with some of these companies I've found, and you can do really well, like under 1,000 copies. Yeah. In terms of how much you put into it, how much you get back. When you physically have them at shows, it tends to work really well.
Yeah, hopefully we can test that out soon once shows are back to normal.
Yeah, once you get on a circuit, then that would be a cool thing to have, like a 4-song EP on vinyl or something, Yeah. I think that could help, like, push you out, and then people kind of really connect to you. I'll be looking forward to do it. I'll get it.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for hosting me, and thank you for sharing my music. It makes an impact. And any of you good listeners out there, you're changing an artist's career every time you stream and you listen to somebody's song. And I think that's really impactful. And I think sometimes people don't realize that, but you are directly impacting someone's life.
Well, please look at the banner below, because if you grab it, you'll be able to, on the replay, get to your album. And we also have the link on our Anchor podcast. We'll have the physical link like we always do, so that will go right to your song, and we'll push it up on our story on our Instagram, so that will connect right to the podcast and all the links. So
wonderful. Well, great. Thank you so much, and thank you from Nashville.
Oh wow, that's a good view. Yeah, that's something I don't get to see when I'm doing the audio. Well, have a good night. That's a good view. That's cool.
Thank you. Well, have a good night yourself, and I hope I can talk to you soon when the next song comes out.
Yeah, next time let me know what the next one is. We do the same thing.
I will.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.